Yeah, thank you, Matthias. Last man standing. So I'm Oliver. I'm not from the Android TV business. I'm representing the DACH region for Google's advertising business, formerly known as DoubleClick, now Google Ad Manager. And I have the task first to keep you here in the room and not leaving for the airport. But keep in mind we have the Q&A session afterwards. And on the other hand, to build the bridge between the Android TV topic discussed here and the different elements and the advertising topic on the other. I think at least 2 full sessions were based on addressable TV and how to make money with television, but I think in any kind of session there was a certain nuance of either data exchange, churn through AVOD, but also quality. So I think this is the biggest challenge we are all faced with, not just to control the quality of the contents we're delivering to our customers, or you are delivering to your customers as telcos, TV OEMs, or OTTs, but also to make sure that the quality of the advertising is in the same way given than for the content. Because if you do not so, you just lose your customers. So very easy figures here for the end. So 1 out of 3 will disappear when you either have a bad ad experience in your app or especially even on big screen. So what kind of challenges are we faced with? So especially for the user, of course, this has all to do with latency and buffering, which to a certain extent is accepted nowadays, as we learned also from Sasha this afternoon. But still, of course, if you want to have a clear and clean experience, this should be not given. Playback failure is another thing. I think it happens nowadays more in apps than maybe in content, but still high challenge, especially when we go into the field of addressable TV, where we have to deal with high server loads and millions of users. Same for audio level. I think in Europe we're in the need for some legislation for that to make sure that this is now gone. But someone still has to deliver that and has to make sure that when you switch to an ad, that the audio level is not going up or down. And again, it's about the quality here. A real ad-related topic then, of course, the repetition of ads or the capping. So you should not get onto the nerves of your users. So either better show no ad than one ad too often. I think this is especially happening nowadays with video ads because the demand is not really given. So maybe there are not even enough video ads available on the demand side, so on the advertiser side. Other challenges, especially technical challenges for all of you, especially as operators and also app providers, the fragmentation of devices. We try to solve this with things you saw here also during this presentation with device cycles, new hardware, cheaper devices, so to make it easier for you also to roll out devices, to update devices, things like that. Scaling is something we definitely help with, and then again, the ad-related topic when it comes to quality content, the brand safety. So not all the time there's a need for an open auction or a deal-based model for content. I think we're here in the television world where classical deal forms are still commodity. On the other hand, they are not digitized nowadays, and this is what we are working on. So if you do everything right and provide not just a perfect content experience, but also a perfect ad experience, your users will also consume those ads, which results again in more revenue for you if you make use of a good advertising solution, because the advertiser sees by the measurements you do on behalf of the advertiser, so to say, on your devices, that the ads are also consumed. So how did we dive into this topic? So we do this all together with the Android TV team, of course, to create a perfect experience. But in general, these activities are loosely coupled because we, of course, also serve other devices or other ecosystems like iOS or TV OEMs with their operating systems. In general, we cut this into 3 pillars. So a seamless experience for the user on the one hand, and also perfectly done in a technical manner. A personalized experience then for the user, so that what I already outlined, this personalized ad experience is given, and you make a higher revenue by providing addressability to your customers, and therefore then a programmatic advertising model for your advertising partners. And last but not least, the measurement piece. I will not deep dive so much today into it, just a bit at the end when it comes to SDKs and how to integrate all that. So this is still a bit of an open topic in the different regions, as you can imagine. So there are now first steps forward with integrating either panel-based mechanisms with live measurements or the other way around, like it happened, an example, in Germany now between YouTube and the classical TV world. So going a bit into the aspect of delivering a seamless experience. So there are different elements how you can get closer to a perfect seamless experience here, which just help to make the ad insertion business more accurate. One very easy element here is what we're already delivering with our solutions, whether it's dynamic ad insertion or also pre and post rolls, is that we have one pillar in our service which is conditioning all the assets, which means that they are transcoded to the needs of the connected devices. So whether it's a small screen or a big screen. So basically an easy task, but if you have millions of users and millions of devices, someone has to do it, and this is part of what we deliver as a service when you would work together with us. Another element is the creative repository, or how those creatives, so the ad creatives, will be delivered to the devices of your customers. So on the one hand, of course, there must be one central repository. On the other hand, there's also an infrastructure in the middle, and one key element and example here in the delivery of those assets are our YouTube global caches. So whenever you work with us on the addressable TV or programmatic TV side, you get this on top. So the YouTube infrastructure is used also to deliver the targeted ads, and not in the YouTube application. It's on your box then in your service. And last but not least, that's what we're still working on, also to create a common ID so that it's made sure that the right asset, the right advertising asset, is also delivered to the right ad slot. Again, has something to do, of course, with the quality of the advertising. The personalization aspect, of course, it's twofold. On the one hand, it helps you as a publisher, which you are, whether you're a broadcaster or a platform provider with content, helps you to increase your revenue by being able to deliver programmatic TV on behalf of your advertising customers. What has changed, of course, so originally we had this 90-second ad break, or even longer. I think in Spain there are ad breaks up to 12 minutes. Not sure who's really consuming them, but they are there. But now they can be diversified. So it will be in the near future already now, it's a mixture out of so-called old reservation business, where you make sure upfront by sending a fax to your publishing, from the advertiser, the publishing partner, that a certain part of the ad slot is reserved. And on the other hand, the other extreme would be then a marketplace-driven approach, which is maybe not the right approach for high-quality content, but maybe for the long tail, also in the TV channel business. And then there's something in the middle, of course, where digitization is just starting over. We call this programmatic guaranteed. This more or less mimics the good old reservation business, which you already know, and is pushing this into user interfaces, automated deal making, and of course also measurement and success measurement on that. Altogether, this, as you see here, this of course optimizes the yield for you as a publisher. With the introduction of different deal models than the classical reservation, you just create something like a marketplace, and with some demand and auction pressure, prices will be more diversified. And what this machinery, of course, has to deliver is also all this what we do nowadays manually, namely avoiding conflicts in between advertisers and examples, or not having two spots of two car manufacturers in one ad break. This is a very, very, very simple example. So this is how it then looks like already now, especially in the OTT domain. We deliver this already. So a mixture out of old world with reserved sponsorships, and an example here, two programmatic slots in the middle. And all this, again, automized. And what will follow during this year is also an example, graphical user interfaces, where you can just click together your campaigns, click together your ad break, and then send it into an auction or into a deal-making process with the advertisers. Important here, of course, again, the monetization and the yield. the brand safety in this high-quality content business must be given, but again, as not open auction-based models will come to the table automatically, it's up to you to select also your advertisers. That's also how programmatic business works with, an example, private auction, private deals. So now a deeper look into how we work together with the Android TV team. So as you can imagine, as on those boxes, you have a running Android ecosystem. It's also relatively easy to execute our SDKs from the ad manager business because it's practically the same SDK, so-called Google EMEA SDK for the video ads and the GMA SDK for all kind of banner ads or display ads. And these are also, this slide, what is here outlined, the three monetization models for the big screen, which of course are also valid for the small screen, but just to outline a bit what can be done already nowadays. So we have one pillar which represents the classical display business, which is now also relevant on the TV. Just imagine in some of the markets, L banners or LANers on the screen being display ads on the TV, or you have the sponsored row in the Android TV environment. And the other thing are then the classical roles, pre-rolls, mid-rolls, post-rolls, which can be delivered upfront to content, which can also be delivered maybe inside the UI instead of a display ad. And last but not least, the spot replacement, which is then the gold standard. And here again, we have to make a distinction between OTT delivery of spot replacement or so-called client-side ad insertion, where you have, in example, a cable signal or satellite signal at the set-top box or the TV. All these three pillars are dedicated to certain constituencies. So I would say the display and home screen monetization is more to the operators and also TV OEMs. The pre-rolls, everyone can do that, whoever owns the content or at least has some rights to put some ads around the content. And then the spot replacement is dedicated, from our perspective, to the content owner and the broadcaster. Of course, sometimes models change, especially at the moment, because when you as an operator are able to implement such a solution or have it available for a broadcaster, in some cases also the broadcaster gives you the task to do this on behalf of them. Maybe not the monetization, but at least the practical doing on your device. So for which platform do we deliver those solutions? Simple answer for all the devices out there in the market, beginning also from non-Android TV set-top boxes. I just put here some example from my home country, so you can guess what they are from the three biggest operators or fixed line operators in the field. So for that, we also have SDKs available also for the client side or the server side ad insertion. For Android TV, it's clear we use the same SDK as which is available also for the mobile devices. And then, as I said, on the apps, we have a full catalog of SDKs for iOS, Android, tvOS, Chromecast, Roku, and Fire TV. So it's a one-on-one solution here. Bit more technical slides, still not too much. I will just leave this out here today. Basically, this is again summarizing what we have available to integrate with an Android TV ecosystem. So again, starting from the home screen display ads, which is still a roadmap topic, I would call it. So I will come back to you within the next 3 to 6 months on that. Pre-rolls, very simple, Google EMEA SDK, and then the gold standard, the spot replacement, again subdivided into 2 fields. Server-side ad insertion for all OTT streams. It's playlist manipulation. I think it's one of the hottest topics at the moment in the market, easy to implement, so just ready to go. And then the bit more complicated topic, linear TV ad insertion on the device itself, using either cable signal, multicast signal, or a satellite signal, or even terrestrial, and you switch between the TV signal and the ad, which comes over IP and back. In Europe, this is, I think, closely bound together with the HBBTV standard. So, short deep dive into dynamic ad insertion again. So as I outlined, there are 2 ways of doing that, client-side, server-side. So Originally, this graphic was meant for just for the plain OTT service, but the result is the same. So you take content and ads and make sure that the ads are put into the content on your device. About the different methodologies, again, it's dependent on where your original content comes from. And here again, the separation of both. Again, it's up to you to decide in which topic you deep dive further in the next month. I can just recommend to be quick, especially as an operator. We see still a lot of operators who are a bit hesitant to start over with this topic because they do not see the opportunity. But as I said, I think at the moment there is an opportunity given for everyone in the field. The broadcasters are preparing themselves heavily, and the platform operators have the chance to be some kind of a man in the middle, take either a rev share for the delivery of those personalized ads or monetize their own content. And you need the left pillar for all your OTT properties, including apps, and the right pillar if you still have a classical plain old TV signal via DVB standards in your country and also a corresponding device out there in the field.
Hi, thanks for some really cool presentations. Just two quick questions on the ad insertion while that's fresh. One, a question of scale. When you're talking about relatively small operators, you know, with tens of thousands of subscribers, hundreds of thousands, what's the sort of entry point in terms of either the global market or the global subscriber base or a segment that you're going to target? That's question one. The question two is in GDPR and stuff like that. What about data privacy? You didn't mention that once.
Yes, but your first question was on entry level to work with us on that topic, if I understood correctly?
To be able to personalize. If I have 1,000 subscribers, I'm not going to do this, am I? If I have 1 million, it's going to make sense. Where is the cutoff point?
Well, it makes sense right from the beginning, but of course it depends on the ad catalog which is available, and this again depends a bit on the deals you made with the advertisers itself. So they are responsible more or less to deliver the ads, but you have to make deals with the advertising world to create also some kind of catalog, unless you go into the open auction market where then advertisers just bid or make a bid on your inventory. But in general, I think it's not too much of a difference to the online world, whether it's web or app. It's just larger creatives.
Okay, and the privacy issue in GDPR?
Yeah. Again, so as Matthias already outlined, we are not handing over data unless you want it so. So it's your device as an operator, or your device as a TV OEM, or it's the broadcaster's data when you are inside the broadcaster's apps. There are possibilities of course to share data, but all this under the rules of GDPR. So user consent is required. I think our view on user consent and cookie consent is even stronger than the one of our competitors.
Great. Then we had a question over there, I think. No, not anymore? Okay. Anyone else? We have a question over there, yeah.
Mladen. I'm Gustavo from BTR, Chile, Latin America. We are looking for a set-top box to implement Android TV. And we are looking for the minimum values or the minimum specifications of the chipset for the set-top box. So how do you choose your set-top box to be efficiently in the features and the cost?
Okay, so if I understood correctly, your question was how do you choose a chipset, right?
Exactly. What are the minimum requirements for a chipset in a set-top box for Android TV?
Okay, so the minimum requirements is something that I think Google should provide the answer to that specifically. I know that with the latest versions of Android, they have been lowering the specs for that. So where the exact cutoff point is, it's somebody else should answer that for you. But as a guideline for the selection of the chipset, first question that you should ask yourself is: are you going with the IP only box, or are you going with a hybrid box? Because you have more options if you go with the IP only box, because SoC vendors, a larger number of them supports those designs, because integration of conditional access system and DVB integration is slightly more complex. In our case, we were starting with a hybrid box. So for us, at the beginning, I think the selection was very simple. Broadcom and HiSilicon was having something. At that point, we were more inclined towards Broadcom because we had some other projects done with them. We were very satisfied with them. So that was the selection when we started the project. However, if you have noticed from my presentation, the all IP boxes that we are currently developing are going with HiSilicon and Amlogic. So basically, I would need to know more about your project to answer that question. But the cutoff point for the specs, I think we have 2 gigs of RAM and 15K MIPS, it's sufficient. How much lower that you can go from that? 1 gig of RAM might be possible, but it depends on your application, how demanding it is.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I have a question for the panel. What is your view of the number of Android set-top box penetration in the market in 5 years? Is it going to be what I hear, 50% or more?
That's a good question.
Well, as you've seen, we're branching out to more form factors than just set-top boxes. So as a cumulative, total, we are expecting big numbers in the next 5 years. But yeah, on the TV space, I think you can see by the number of providers that are up there. As you know, the operator space is fragmented, many operators in each country, and even when an operator is interested in Android TV, it will take a few years to ramp up to the critical mass because of new customers and customers that are getting the new box replacements. So I think 5 years is probably, maybe within the next sort of 2 years, we'll start to see the real fruits of the labor. But even now, you can see 2x growth year on year. So based on that, we're quite excited about the future.
I think of the 140 operator partners committed, less than a third are already live, so a lot is in development currently. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the tier ones are actually exploring, and some of the netcos to launch projects. Orange has launched in Spain, for example.
Yeah.
And others are also looking into that.
Yes.
Next question.
Another question for you. Do you have a roadmap for further lowering the hurdles for operators?
Yeah, so we have a dedicated team in Zurich that works on performance improvements. We've lowered the specs going from O to Android P.
I wasn't really aiming at technical specifications, but more like the limitations you put forward or the obligations you put forward for the operators. Do you plan to still go down in what you impose?
Are there any specific limitations you have in mind? Just to
Nothing specific, but for instance, which applications should be put where in the UI and stuff like that?
I think as you saw with Matthias's presentation, one of the reasons Google's doing this is to make sure that our applications are distributed as widely as possible in a more consistent way. If we have to deal in a fragmented space, we would have to do deals with each individual type of platform, which would take a long time. That's why it is so important for us to have those applications distributed. It's sort of part and parcel of having a free open platform. That's one of the sort of considerations that have to be taken into account. And I think as you see with the custom launcher, the applications sit in the App Store, but we don't, you can see that many operators choose not to really reference Google at all. It's a very much pay TV service provided by that operator, and there's only a few Google references in the startup, maybe in the settings, and then obviously the applications. But more often than not, people are actually drawing into Google Play, Google Play Store, for example. The fact that all of those applications are there, you don't need to technically integrate these applications, which saves money, it saves a lot of time. You just need to do a contractual deal with that partner if you wanted to pre-install the app, for example.
I think a very important point is also that we have very close relationships with our operators. So we often meet, also have council sessions with all our committed operators where we take feedback and then incorporate that feedback into the roadmap, making it actionable as Mladen outlined, but also reducing certain requirements. So in previous Android TV versions, we provided recommendations and we got rid of that because it was a popular request from operators to integrate with whatever tech partner they would like to integrate with to do that, for example. So we're trying to lower it as much as possible while at the same time ensuring that our key principles are valued.
Thanks.
Next question. And I think the time is at 4 p.m. On the hour. So I think we've reached the end of this session, but also the end of the conference. Thank you very much for staying with us until the very end. We'll all be around to answer any additional questions. Also, if you have any feedback or questions specifically for the Google team, an easy email address to remember is welovetv@google.com, and that will be redirected to us. So thank you very much for coming.
Big round of applause for the Android TV team. Thank you very much, guys.